so scary. I can't help it.
We're JK and Kim, and we love traveling, exploring, and enjoying the hashtag Vanlife way of RVing. With our fur babies, we could be called weekend camping warriors because we're still juggling several busy careers, but we're hitting the road whenever we can. Follow along with us as we enjoy what we call hashtag Vanlife for big people. It's JK
And Kim.
in the camper, and thanks for joining us again. Let's go back to the first part of July.
July 2022, and we just finished up at the North Cascades National Park. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous.
And so we're heading off to our next destination in Omak, Washington. Where is Omak, Washington?
In Washington.
In Omak, yeah.
Yeah. Carl Precht Memorial RV Park. We hope we're saying the names right, but
You'd made reservations there for one night, which was good. We needed a little rest, but the heat was getting to us.
it was really hot. And our spot was right next to the restrooms. They weren't bad. They weren't great, but it did the job for what we needed it to do for one night.
And we also found out that the Omak campgrounds is also home to the world famous Omak Stampede Rodeo.
I had no idea what that meant until you researched it, and there's a place on the river where they come down and the horses?
Right, they stampede a bunch of horses down this steep embankment, and they go into the river. It's like watching one of those old Western movies. They go down the river and then go into the rodeo arena. They do it every year, and at that big arena, we were surprised that there was a country music concert going on by Spencer Crandall.
Never heard of him, but he wasn't bad.
Yeah, well, let's take a listen on the radio here. He's on the radio. Hold on.
Well, he's cute too, and he can sing.
Well, it's that kind of hip-hop country or whatever they're doing nowadays. But anyway, he lulled us to sleep. I don't think that's a great compliment, but we went to sleep to his music down the way at the rodeo arena. So that was kind of different. Never had that happen before.
No, it was kind of a cool little place. Love the pictures of the stampede that you've worked into this whole thing. It's just so cool.
Yeah, the cool thing was that we had our camp spot was right across the river from where the chute is, where they come down, and couldn't figure out why that was there, but apparently that's where all the horses come down. So on our way next,
We went to, where?
Ione, Washington.
Oh, Ione, Washington. My grandma had a best friend named Ione, and you have Ione in your history.
Right, there's an Ione, California that the kids lived in out in California for a while. So we headed that way. Beautiful, beautiful scenery heading from Omak, and we went through the Colville National Forest and over Sherman Pass, which was kind of cool.
Yeah, it was a pretty little drive. I mean, it's a little twisty-turny, but not bad.
Here we're going to cross the Columbia River yet again.
It's a great river, and it spans quite a ways, and it's always beautiful. Look at the scenery.
And we're ending up in Kettle Falls, Washington, another timber town, logging town. But we've got to count how many times we actually crossed the Columbia River on this trip. I'm sure it was close to 6 or 7 times.
A handful, maybe.
So here we are. It sounds like we're doing a slideshow for the relatives. And this one here.
It feels that way.
Yeah, we're heading towards Ione, and it's also on a river, but not the Columbia River.
Yeah, what was this river? Pend Oriel?
Oriel River.
That was a pretty one, too. The river areas are always so pretty anyway.
And Ione, as you can tell by seeing the twin flags, right near the Canadian border.
Yeah, that was one of the reasons we came to the area. We wanted to get up to the Canadian border, but a great campground. We met Dan. He had a great laundry area that we did laundry at. Bathrooms were private. Oh, yeah, look at the quarters.
And he was nice enough to let us park not in an actual RV site, but in the shade in a grove of cedar trees so we could stay cool in the shade. So the next morning, we fired up the old coffee, got that going, and then we hit the road again, heading up the scenic byway.
And that went up to the Canadian border, right, where we went to Medellin Falls.
Yes, it did. First, we kind of pulled off on a little side road and got to see another dam.
Oh, yeah. Those are cool. They create beautiful scenery. I don't care what anybody says about dams. Those dams are beautiful. Look at that. I
know the water is just gorgeous up in that side, and also a habitat for bald eagles along there.
We didn't see any this trip.
We're going to pull off the highway and head into Medellin Falls, Washington. And this was a pretty cool little town.
I really enjoyed it. There's not a lot there, but just the hospitality of the town, what looks like the history of the town is just so neat.
We were thrilled to see that sign. Canada. Wow.
We don't see that very often.
So it's your typical little small town up in the mountains, and its claim to fame, besides this historic nature, like this is the historic Washington Hotel.
That was see me with houses and architecture. I was taking pictures of all the old buildings because they were just really neat looking. Look at that. Isn't that neat?
Overhangs.
Yep. And then they had little shops down here, a little quilt shop, and then the restaurant that we ate at.
The Farmhouse Cafe was probably one of the only things open besides the post office that day when we pulled in, but gorgeous.
Oh my gosh, those geraniums were to die for. We sat right in front of them just so we could admire them. They were beautiful.
There was a little lady with a wagon that was going around, and I'm not sure if she was a city employee or just a volunteer who watered all the flowers in town.
Yeah, we thought she was just watering the geraniums, but we came to find out that she went all the way up and down the downtown street to water everybody's plants.
So we're waiting for our breakfast to arrive, and while we were waiting, we also bought a whole bunch of baked goods, too.
Of course we did. Ooh, look at the breakfast. Oh, man.
That's yours.
I know. It was so good.
We hadn't had real bacon in a long time, so I don't know what was better, the bacon or the French toast, and of course, I had pancakes.
Of course you had pancakes. You know what was nice? I didn't have to ask for crispy bacon. They just knew. I love crispy bacon.
Yeah, so they're open year round. It's interesting.
Yeah, look at that one. Isn't that unique? I like the color too. It's fun.
Yes, and then behind that is another Art Deco historic apartment building that's on a historic register.
And then this one looked like the depot to me.
It's kind of like a welcome center. It's an old railroad baggage car that's sit there, and they've built a nice little roof over it. There's a bunch of photos and interpretive things, and it's also got a library way in the back that you can check out books.
That is so cool.
The reason for the town was a large zinc lead mine and also a Portland cement plant, and that brought the railroad up there and brought lots of people to come and live there.
Oh, look at, you can never get away from Exit. Exit is everywhere in the U.S. and Canada. May I say that? Exit, your choice for real estate.
Do you have any connection with them?
I do, as a matter of fact.
The other claim to fame for Medellin Falls, Washington was the big bomb of a Kevin Costner movie called The Postman.
But I'm not with these people. I'm just passing through.
I don't care if it's a bomb or not. I don't mind watching Kevin Costner.
Well, I think we need to rent that movie and see, because it was filmed in Medellin Falls and also at one of the dams that's right on the Canadian border. We were going to go to that one, but then changed our minds. We continued from Medellin Falls north and heading to Canada. And some beautiful lakes and rivers and areas there. Very scenic up there.
We've only been to the Canadian border one other time, and that was in Ely, Minnesota, and we saw the border crossing there. But you were dying to see the border here in Washington.
Well, I wanted to step foot into Canada if it was at all possible. But we were just kind of like, yeah, that's probably not going to happen. So we'll just drive as close as we can get.
Yeah, you might as well just go see what the crossing looks like, because it's interesting.
Was. And so, of course, there was no sneaking up on the border crossing. I mean, you just pull right around this corner and you're in full view of all the guards or the patrol officers and things like that.
Yeah, not the Pineapple Princess. You can see us a mile away. And they come all out with their armed belts and things like that they've got their, things ready to go. And I don't know, it's intimidating. I don't know why, but it is. It's intimidating.
Well, you always get intimidated by men in uniform.
It was ladies in uniform I was intimidated by this time.
So here's the facility. This is the port of entry, as they call it, and there's one of the officers who kept asking, "You sure you don't want us to call Canada for you?"
Well, when they say they're going to call Canada, I mean, it's a little like, no, we're not important enough for you to call Canada. Like, I'm expecting them to call their some big office just for us to cross over? No.
Well, apparently they just called over to the building with the blue roof.
Is that right? I don't know.
But that's on the other side of the international border. So the one officer said, "Well, you sure now? You're here?" And I said, "Okay, go call. I don't want to be a bother. I don't want to bother Canada."
My question to you guys is, why?
So she came back in like a minute or two and said, "Canada said it's okay if you come over."
It's just the way she worded it made me feel so weird. So we went on foot across Canada. Not across Canada, across the Canadian border. There.
And looked just the same over there as it did in the United States.
Well, it's just silly, really. But you got over there and you got to see a little monument that had been there for umpteen years. You've never been into Canada before, other than this time, right?
Right. I've never been to Canada, set foot in there. They said you could only go so far, up to a certain point, and no farther. So we made sure that we weren't going to go any farther than we needed to. So we spent a couple minutes on Canadian soil. We turned around and, well, there you go. The United States was welcoming us home.
Welcome back to the United States of America. Thank you very much.
And that was crazy. And then, bam, we were getting welcomed back to Washington again, too. They're so friendly up there.
So friendly.
So we spent one more night down in Ione, and then we started to head east again, well, southeast kind of, on the recommendation of the folks who have the Cedar RV park and car wash there, and headed into Idaho.
Yeah, Dan and his wife, they've had an RV or a camper, and he knows all the little areas around there, and we talked travel for a while, and he suggested that we go down to the McCall, Idaho area. I think it was Highway 95, if I recall correctly. And we said, okay, we didn't really have a plan of route yet, so we just were winging it, and he gave us a good suggestion.
So we headed that way, and we were coming into Sandpoint, Idaho, another lumber town, but reminded us a lot of Coeur d'Alene, Idaho.
Anytime you get, like I said, in this whole trip, anytime you get water, trees, and mountains in the backdrop, I am a happy girl.
It's like a Hallmark movie.
That's why I like watching. Oh, another depot.
It's the old Sandpoint, Idaho Railroad Depot. You said it looked a lot like Okoboji to you.
A lot of boats. Look at them all.
Out in the middle of Idaho. We zipped through there. Boater's paradise. And again, the lumber industry still looks alive and well in Idaho. Here's the mill there in Sandpoint. And we're heading to Moscow now. We went to Canada.
We're going to Russia. This is what we find fascinating as you go across the country. One, there are so many towns named the same across the country. I mean, there's so many we come across. Then you've got country city names like Moscow. I mean, why? Why in Washington?
Maybe Russian immigrants came there and named it Moscow. Here's the canola plants you were talking about.
Oh, these are amazing. If you think the yellow of our fall harvest of soybeans is yellow, look at that. They're electric looking. They're neon. I mean, it's so bright.
Yes, and very hilly there. We didn't think we were that high up in elevation until we came to a lookout which overlooked Lewiston, Idaho. Again, another community on a large river.
Yeah, and then it's the famous descent down into Lewiston, and I saw my least favorite sign of all time. Here it comes. Yeah, there it is. Hate seeing that sign because, oh, that's not the one. Well, that one doesn't help either because it's a runoff.
Runaway truck ramp.
Yeah, that makes me nervous. Anytime they have one of those ready to go, then you know there's something scary coming up.
Steep grade going back down the hill there from the Lewiston overlook into the town. But wow, what a view.
It was a great view, and the turns are wide, so it's not like, I would say it's similar like if you've ever been coming into Salt Lake City. It's kind of like that. They're wide and big turns, but it's still a pretty abrupt descent into Lewiston here.
And you can also head into eastern Washington to Walla Walla. Here's another one of those.
Walla
Walla Walla, Washington. Here's another runaway truck ramp.
See, isn't that just scary? I hope I never see a truck do that. That's scary.
But you made it. You didn't have the you know what, grab handle too tightly gripped.
I distract myself by shooting the video. That's what I do.
So we kind of bypassed Lewiston and followed the river there, and
Gorgeous.
very gorgeous. And we continue to head southeast here out of Lewiston, and just pretty country there. And then back up into the mountains again.
Up and down you go.
The forests are really, really beautiful through here. Of course, in the middle of summer, you're always worried about wildfires.
We got lucky this trip. We've been in trips where we've been dodging the wildfires, and in July of 2022, when we were out here, we actually didn't see one wildfire, which is amazing.
It's doing some summertime road construction, even in Idaho.
Well, they had a lot of areas that had rock slides, so they were trying to get them back up and cleaned up and all that kind of stuff, I think. There's a bridge.
Railroad bridge. We're headed to an area known for very, very tall railroad bridges and trestles. And it was kind of a cool thing for me, being a train buff, to see all these things that I've read about in magazines and saw videos on. Here's a roadside sign that talks about some of those.
Anytime I see anything railroad, I try to grab them, but look at that one. Isn't that cool? Oh boy.
Here you go, another downhill slide for Kim. The White Bird grade was pretty incredible. I think this one was a lot steeper than the one going into Lewiston.
Yes, it was. And this is where you see the downgrade sign that I was thinking of in the last one. But yeah, it's coming up here. Don't you worry.
and the sun was starting to go down, and the colors just started to pop.
I think the biggest thing is there's never enough turnouts here on these beautiful areas that you want to stop and grab pictures. So you're kind of left with just winging it with a video camera or your camera itself or your phone or whatever you're shooting with to try to grab some of these views because you don't have any other way to grab them otherwise.
I'm glad that we were coming down here while it was still light enough to see it. I know we've been through some mountain passes in the dark and you don't really get to appreciate it, but maybe that's good because it's not as scary for you.
I don't know. I think otherwise, like where was it? Was it Page, Arizona, where we were going through the canyon or something? There's big boulders and mountains right next to us on each side of the road. I was kind of creeped out by that.
We had some thunderstorms in the area. Oh, there's another runaway truck.
Oh my goodness, I hate those. They creep me out.
How do they get back down from there if you don't have any brakes?
Well, that's what I'm wondering. They just roll back down and back into traffic. I don't know.
But Kim was starting to hyperventilate, so we decided I would make a maneuver and pull across the highway and go into this overlook.
Yes, thank you. Let me breathe a minute. Oh, yeah, the brake's tough. It's so scary. I can't help it. Look at this.
Here's a panoramic shot from that parking lot area. Just amazing. It was just so incredible. And the colors again, and the terrain of all the hills and things are amazing.
The lighting of that sunset was just amazing as we were coming down here.
Yeah. So we continued on, trying to get as much mileage in as we could. We were fighting the setting sun and darkness, and also lightning and thunderstorms out ahead. Now we're alongside another river, the Salmon River.
The reason that we're actually driving for so long on these days is it was hot as we were going through Idaho. So the only way we could keep our dogs cool is to keep driving until the temperatures drop.
Well, the cool thing I wanted to mention is this bridge that we went through is called the Time Zone Bridge. Yeah, and you cross the bridge and you're in a different time zone. So we stopped at Sheep Creek rest area, which was very, very nice because they have an actual 24/7 caretaker on the property.
And of course I had to talk to him the next morning because I needed to figure out some things. So I needed to ask him some questions about the place. It's so cool up there, and it was quiet and well maintained. It was beautiful.
We kind of vowed that we'd go back and during the daylight at another time, another trip, and go drive through that canyon again. See the rapids on this are amazing.
Yeah, we did. I did anyway. You were driving, but I saw some of the rafters going through some of this river. They had a couple of outfits that would rent out those and take them on the rafting tours, like where we used to live in Salida, Colorado. So it felt very, very similar to that area that we used to live, and it always kind of gives you a good nostalgic vibe.
Yeah, and it's a good rafting area when you see all the old school buses that they used to haul the people back and forth from the put-in and the recovery areas.
Exactly. So fun.
don't know. Would you go down there in a raft?
No, but I did just talk to somebody who went whitewater rafting in Colorado. See, there's somebody down there in the water. No. And he said that it's really not as bad as you think it is, that you're really hooked in there. I think I would just pop out of there going over some rapid somewhere. I know I would fall out because that's just my tendency.
So after our beautiful scenery, we ended up in another beautiful place, McCall, Idaho.
No, it's a very, I don't know, there's two different sides. You got the lake side where all the fancy people live in their fancy homes, and then you got the other side, which were the original cabins. But it's a really neat town area, very touristy driven, very resort driven, I would say, kind of lodge-like. I don't know, it just is very neat.
It just reminded me of another kind of mountain town. We did find a really cool restaurant to have breakfast at that morning in McCall, Idaho, and I guess the reason we picked it because it had nice flowers and there was actually a parking space in front of it.
And the pickup truck that you could belly up to. That was fun.
It was fun. They had really good coffees there and really good breakfast. And we met some really cool people sitting around the pickup truck having breakfast.
You know, you hear about that from other travelers, that the best part of traveling is talking to people, and we're starting to find that. You get to hear other people's stories of travels and where they live, and I think that's half the fun of traveling, not only the amazing views that we've seen. We saw so many on this trip, but to sit around this breakfast bar area, which was probably the cocktail bar area at night, but it was just so much fun.
This is my breakfast. It was like a protein bowl kind of deal with pulled pork and black beans and avocados, and you had the
avocado toast
with the egg, and that was good. The food was awesome. It fortified us for meeting this guy.
Who's this voodoo ranger dude?
He's been waiting for a table for a while there.
Serve that man. He's skin and bones.
Too late. At least the beer distributor guy has a sense of humor. So we'll leave it there. I mean, we were trying to get as many little highlights in as we possibly could to kind of get caught up with our blog.
Yeah, find us on the blog, on Facebook, Instagram at JK and Kim and the Camper, and we're kind of keeping up. We're almost done with our big epic trip that we took in July this year, and thanks for coming along with us.
Yeah, we got lots more stuff coming your way. So thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe and hit the like button.